Hey everyone, it's me, EODGamer here, and in this video, I'll be teaching you how to clear the weekly boss Phantylia, and we'll be using free-to-play characters like March 7, Natasha, as well as Danheng, but really any other comp works well as long as you just follow simple concepts here too. So first things first, there'll be no spoiler in this video at all other than the boss fight itself. If you guys haven't completed the story and haven't approached the boss, I highly recommend you revisit this video when you actually need to. There's some things that happen in the actual boss fight itself that might be considered as a bit of spoilers. I'm putting here on like Danheng's screen just in case you guys don't know about it as well. I would highly recommend you watch it after you complete the story, but for the most part, there's going to be no story spoilers as well. So, what are the most important mechanics of the boss? Firstly, there are two main things that the boss will do. One is they'll decrease your max HP. She has the flowers that she summons, decreases the max HP. At the same time also, she likes to have these flowers that steal your skill points, and once you kill them, they give it back as well. So those are two gimmicks that the two side mobs has. Other than that, she's basically pretty much a standard DPS as well. How do you tackle the first part of them stealing your HP is really cleansers. So cleansers like Natasha as well as Luotab do extremely well because when they use their skill, both of them immediately remove the debuff and also instantly heal the character up to full health as well. This is very useful, especially if maybe you're not playing the second concept that we'll be talking about in a bit as well. So that is the first pair that I think is going to be pretty useful for those of you who are struggling maybe if your character's dying too early because of the max HP reduction. The second type of units that are going to be very useful are shielders who don't even care about max HP at all. Sorry, there's a bit of lightning in the background if any of you can hear. It's raining here in Singapore. So if any of you maybe are struggling with that, you don't have Natasha build, you don't have Luotab build, for example, another option will be to run March 7. And the reason why shielders are very strong is they add on to your overall whatever HP you have. So even if you have 1 HP, the shield just forms around it. It just increases the total max HP of your characters, which means you don't even need to care about the gimmick of that 30% minus as well. Similarly, for Jett also is very strong because he shields up your whole entire team at once. But March 7 shield is actually pretty thick as well. And I think my March 7's shield is thicker than Jett at roughly equal investment too. Of course, one caveat I want to mention is I do have them at slightly higher Eidolons, but it won't really make a difference for this comparison video as a lot of the DPS really comes from the additional help that we'll get from the match, and all we are just doing is this auto battle we can just sustain with these 3 characters. Fire MC is also good because she has a lot of damage reduction. She has a taunt as well, which makes her like pretty good to survive a lot of Phantylia's attacks, and even with that 30% HP drop, she most likely will survive it quite well, especially with the emergency panic button heal from Natasha. Last but not least, the DPS of choice here is Danheng. Some of you might be running other DPS characters, but mainly you want to focus on weakness breaking units that specifically hit her weaknesses, which if I'm not wrong is like Lightning, Imaginary and Wind. So if any of you have those characters, you can swap it out for Danheng as well. But a pretty standard build so far. Now let's go into the battle and I'll talk in terms of like the different phases and like how to tackle them as well. Okay, so the first phase is actually pretty straightforward. It's going to be really just to chunk it down all the way below. What I like to do in the first phase, of course, is to make sure that you have your skills up. Don't really need to burst the ultimate. This power up ability here, as your characters take actions, it will generally charge up. This is the main source of your damage. Of course, if this is like in the Memory of Chaos, it's going to be a different story, but for the sake of this video, this is just to help you auto battle or if you wanted to through this stage as well. So let's talk a bit about the enemies that are summoned in the first phase. For Phantylia herself, she does basically a bit of wind damage here and there. She summons this Wind Lotus. Nothing too much in the first phase, really no real important things to take note of. Here, as you can see, they steal your skill points by 1 skill point, and of course at the start each turn they do heal themselves, and once they are killed, they do give back a lot of these skill points to your team as well. Other than that, I don't think it's like super important, especially if you're following this build. What I like to do is I just put one simple shield out on Fire MC to pull the aggro here, and I just like auto attack the boss down. So I put up, for example, you see I just taunt them real quick. Even if they reduce, I will just slowly DPS, and I'm just going to just go ahead and auto battle this fight. So now just fast forwarding to this part, you can see this attack here by the buff is really going to be most of your damage. If for those of you who are too lazy to like figure out you don't want to actually manually control it, you can just auto battle this. As you can see here, pretty much this team is going to settle the first phase as well, and the couple of the next phases too. It's quite well rounded because it's 3 defensive characters. It's very strong. So I'm not going to waste your time. I'm just going to fast forward like towards the second phase, and we'll talk about the mechanics there as well. Okay, so now we are in the phase 2 of this battle, and this where it gets a little bit challenging, especially because the monsters that she summons here, if we go into the enemy screen real quick, let me just show you her abilities here. She does a little bit more damage here, AoE damage, single target damage, the clap that she does, and of course she summons the Destruction Lotus to bloom, which reduces your total HP as well. So as you can see here, the Destruction Lotus are quite difficult to handle because they remove a certain percentage of your max HP, ignores defense also, so it's quite devastating, especially if you have for example a character that's pretty squishy already and don't have like a certain aggro draw or ability to remove it. It's gonna be quite irritating, especially if you like need to spend resources to cleanse as well. So that is like something to consider. You can easily use Taunt to get rid of this, and I'm gonna be showing you that this team comp actually handles this stage quite well. And of course, after they get killed, so to speak, they just enter this repose state that allows them to come back after a while. So I'm just going to go ahead and auto battle and show you that this is actually very possible, like with this free to play team. Okay, so that's an example of like the max HP hitting certain characters, but as you can see, this auto battle, when March 7 for example puts up the shield, her max HP has been restored. Natasha can easily just like heal up just like that. Of course the auto battle doesn't always target Danheng, but then again it's fine too, because we don't really rely on Danheng too much here. It's mostly on the AoE damage from the imaginary buff. So yeah, she's at like 35% HP now, and all it's left is really just to bring it down to 0, and I will see you in the next phase. Let me just fast forward real quick. Alright, phase 3, the final phase here. This is probably going to be the hardest because it combines both the mechanics of like the first as well as the second phase. Makes it a little bit annoying, but here as you can see, I'm just continuing the auto battle real quick. I'm going to have to stop it because I want to show you the stats of the monsters here. So let's go in here. So it combines both of them now. As you can see now, they also heal these Abundance Lotuses. They are the same ones that we saw in the first phase. They still steal skill points. When they die, they also give you back the skill points. Similarly for the Destruction Flowers over here, the Destruction Lotuses, very similar as well. They reduce your max HP too. But now, not only that, Phantylia of course has a lot more damage. She does a lot more imaginary damage to a lot more targets as well. So the third phase combines both the first and second, but pretty much really is the same thing. I'm just going to show you it's auto battleable with this team, with this free to play team as well, as long as you apply the similar concepts here. More sustain is more important than DPS, especially in the Echo of War version. If you were to apply in the Memory of Chaos without this like additional buff, of course the comp is going to change slightly, in a sense where you're going to need more DPS and perhaps rely on maybe just both March 7 as well as Natasha for this half, but you can see the concepts are pretty solid here. At this point, I think you can see that it's very auto-battleable. You can probably just press one button and go and do something else. If you are planning to clear your weeklies, you don't want to like frustrate with having to manually sit at your phone or computer just to clear it. I think this is a fantastic team to do so. I'm going to just fast forward to the ending also. And if you found this video helpful for your ability to clear the Echo of War, do like and subscribe for more of such future content too. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.